Well, it's Tuesday. Oh, wait. This is Wednesday. That's fine. This is Trekland HQ version 2, and we are live. Hey, everyone. I found a Star Trek armchair fan. I found a Star Trek armchair fan in the wild. Yes. Plus, another unboxing today on Trekland Tuesdays Wednesday edition live with me, Dr. Trek. Yes, coming at you here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47. And especially, it's Trekland Trek season, and that was the inspiration for my mini topic today. Yes, coming at you here for some sanity, clarity, and a bigger picture in all things Star Trek. So glad you could join me today. Thanks, everybody, for your patience. No one's going to care about this on YouTube later. But for right now, yes, we're a day later because I had a Trekland Treks tour yesterday. Occasionally, they fall on a Tuesday, per the client. And it gave me a little inspiration for today's topic. So I'm going to get there in a moment. Thanks, everybody, for following me over to Wednesday. I see some of the chat popping in here. I'm going to get to the chat when I finish my little platform here today, my little stump speech. But first, I just want to remind everybody that if you have found us somehow, you came over to today and you're in the chat, please let us know where you're coming from. Maybe this is your first time because it is slightly different timing here, but let us all know where you're coming from, how's the weather, how's the trek where you are, and most of all, how it's going for you. We've been doing this at this time. Oh, this is coming. We're now into like about 9 years. Can you believe that? Doing this at this time of day because we can get more folks from around the globe on with us. Not as many here in the Americas, I know, but everybody still manages to come along. So please, jump in there in the chat. Let us know what's going on with you. Hang on because I'm going to do a topic now, but I will get back around and we will go through the chat, gang. And most of all, if you're watching us later on YouTube, hey, thanks for finding us. Keep sounding off in the commentary. I'd love to see the conversation keep going. And maybe some week you can join us on a Tuesday at 1-ish Pacific, 4-ish Eastern. That's 9-ish UK time, 10-ish Central European. All right. And we're in this time when, I know the headlines are a little slow. We're waiting on, obviously, Strange New World to come back in July. We still have that. We're still waiting on the mega meta level of everything with Paramount and politics and ownership and who's running the show, literally, and who's running the show of the show. And meanwhile, so many of us just want our Star Trek. We just want, and whatever that is. Are you a shipper? Are you a ship pornista? Whatever it is of Star Trek you enjoy, you just want to do that and do it with your friends. And maybe you're lucky enough to still have live friends. And if not that, all of our online communities, of which I am so glad to call all of our TTLers here a great community. And my other ones too. I have the Portal 47, which is my subscription, paid deep dive every month. We have the Portales. I don't know. I know we have Cadet Alice fans, but they're not the Cadetters. I don't think we ever gave them a name. That's funny. But my point is something that, and I've said this story often, but it just came back to me yesterday, okay? We make the mistake, and I never really thought about it, even as we drifted into the digital era, online, and then social media. I never really thought about this until the Star Trek 09 movie came out. And I knew what I thought about it, and I knew what a lot of, on some kind of a spectrum, but most people either they outright didn't like it, but there was always also a whole realm of, we don't need this. This is pointless. It's not Prime Universe. Who cares? And I think there were a few people that said, hey, at least it's Star Trek in the headlines, right? At least it's some Star Trek out there. But people were worried about long-term impacts and effects, about all the canon Star Trek before that, which up until then was the original series in the Berman era, right? This is all obviously all pre-Secret Hideout, pre-Kurtzman era. And people were wondering about either the benign or even the malignant impact. And that's what I carried with me when I walked into Trek Vegas. And our friend Tony Pascal at Trek Movie had organized a panel about Star Trek '09. And this was in the days when this was in the secondary room when panels were an odd bird at Vegas. It wasn't Comic-Con. So you had actors on stage. Once in a while, they'd let in a writer or an artist, but most of the time it was just actors on stage, singly or in a clump. And I walked in to be on this 4-person panel, and there were 200 people in the secondary room, not knowing that no one goes to the secondary room unless you're there to see the astronaut or you're there to see the science speech, which normally would draw 10 or 15 people because everyone else was in the main room or the dealer's room with 2 rooms those days. Anyway, it just struck me after we did a quick show of hands that all the people in there had all become fans from the '09 movie. And they were so new, they didn't know they were supposed to go to the main room. They didn't know that the secondary room was purely for secondary. They didn't know. They were so new and happy to be there. And they had no clue about, most of them had no clue about prior Star Trek, established prime Star Trek. And that was just very eye-opening to me. And the takeaway from that was, number one, never think for anybody else. And never think you're thinking for all of fandom, because no one can do that. It was just a good wake-up lesson. Even though I'd like to think I didn't get in and wallow around and indulge in this, it was a good lesson in, if you're going to make some pronouncement in the name of fandom, okay, but just know what's the parameters of what you're talking about. Because that opened my eyes to thinking, you know what, we're at a convention. And the people here, sure, they're fans. And it's a Trek convention. It's not even a Comic-Con where you've got different slices of fandoms and overlap, right? You can have different interests. Some people are model builders, analog or CGI. If it's a con, they're probably bringing tons of people are cosplayers, right? And you've got people who are writers or they're shipper fans, like they're relationship character fans. Back in the day, we used to talk about the canon fans and the character fans. And I guess character is now the elegant shipper. Although shipper, to me, if you're a shipper fan, it means you must prefer FedEx over UPS. But I digress. It was just a good wake-up call to remember that you don't know everything. It's also a good wake-up call to remind that, thank goodness, Star Trek is not stagnant. Just the way media is not stagnant and the world's not stagnant. Tech is not stagnant. Culture is not stagnant. And I wouldn't say rest on your high horse. Don't rest on your laurel. Just don't rest on your status quo too long, because the world is always changing. The world is always shifting. And about the time 1 year's assumptions and 1 year's truths, if you hang on to that 5 years, 10 years, I'm sorry, gang, the world has shifted around you. And you and the 20 people you know may all still feel the same way or think the same way. In 5, 10, oh my God, 15, 20 years, there's a whole new, if not just way of doing things differently, there's a whole new mini generation that's come along. That's experience is going to be different. They're going to be shaped by different things. Your world was shaped by watching Star Trek after school. Somebody else's world is going to be shaped by watching reruns of later shows. Somebody else's world was shaped by watching Series X every week, one at a time. Some folks' experience is shaped by watching the original run of a show on a big channel. Some others are on a dinky little channel that was always being bumped for hockey or basketball. You know, some came to it from some came in with VHS tapes that their uncle had recorded, and he missed those 3 episodes. So that one part of that one show I never got to see. Wait, that one show ends and Riker says, "Mr. Worf, fire?" I missed that. So, and that's individual cases, I know, but everybody's journey is different. But then even beyond the individual, there's clumps, and that's driven by our situation, right? How did you first find Trek? This applies to anything, but we're going to focus on Trek. And then lastly, it's like, what was your Could your family afford cable? Could your family afford tapes? Did you have homemade tapes? Did you borrow a friend's tapes? Did that favorite aunt, when you went over, or your grandma, when you went over those house, did you see? We have that situation now when Cadet Alice comes to see us. We have a favorite show, Spirit Running Free, on Netflix. It's animated. There's like 8 or 9, 10 seasons. It's such an awesome show. And I forget. I think, well, she's probably watching episodes in between visits, and they don't have. They are modern. What are they? Whether they're millennials or whatever, they don't mess with subscribing to streamers. They have tons. They have their YouTube, and they get everything they need from that. So she only does her Netflix and Spirit Riding Free with us, and we'll binge 10 or 12. There's a ton of seasons. So, shout out Spirit Riding Free. Spirit's the name of her horse. But she will always be shaped by her first Star Trek was, Prodigy, that she went to Grandpa Larry's house and we watched, and we also did a show on the side. But, the experience of a lot of things is shaped like this. Everybody has that. So I go back to that eye-opening moment. It was a pleasant surprise for once. Sometimes we get our eye-opening moments from shocks and traumas or just disruption. So this was a little disruptive, but it was a good disruption. It was good trouble. It wasn't even trouble. Compared to what some people's good trouble has to be, this was not to that bar. But it was a disruption in realizing it was a good, hey, snap out of it. Get off your high horse. The world has changed. Even in the 5 years between Enterprise and all Star Trek as we knew it for 18 years going away, and just within 5 years, that movie that's just a placeholder at best. It's treading water, has a good cast. I guess it's making the PR people and the suits all realize that Star Trek isn't dead the way it was dead for the 20 years, right? Except for reruns. Fresh Trek. This was fresh Trek. And Trek wasn't dead, even though 95% of fandom, 90% was like, okay, fine. But can we get back to real Trek? Can we get back to TV Trek versus movies? But for a chunk of people, that was their first Trek. You always love your first. You always remember your first. And that told me that those 200, 300 people who also got themselves to Vegas, they were so motivated, not having been a fan before. They raised their hands. Is this your first Vegas? Yes. Is this your first convention of any kind? Yes. And Star Trek 09 got those 300 people to Vegas from wherever they were in the country. And it was just such a wake-up call. Not all fans are convention-going fans. And based on 15 years ago's worth of internet, what we saw online then and the ways we did it. And Twitter was a couple years old. Facebook was 2 or 3 years old. So we had nascent social media. YouTube was littleish, still hadn't exploded really yet, but it was getting there. And of course, message boards and yada, yada. And those people didn't know they were supposed to show up and report in at Twitter and Facebook. They were gradually getting there, but they were just new fans. They were just interested and excited in this new thing. Not all fans are convention going because you have to have the money, much less the information and awareness. Those people were the cutting edge. They found their way there and could afford it. But even they weren't all fandom, and much less fandom online. We get so embroiled in what's going on, our Twitter people or our Blue Sky people or Instagram or Facebook even. And Discord, up and down the line. But only a certain smidge of all fandom is online. Put another way, put the reverse. Online fandom is not all fandom. Even convention-going fandom, as benign and as cheer-hearted as 95% of it is, way different tone than online tends to be. Even then, that's not all fandom. I've said this increasingly since that moment in 2009. There is a huge Armchair, I call them the armchair fans. They just want to watch the shows. You guys that are with me today, your online fandom. Now this may be your one check-in of the week, or you might check in with, Seventh Rule, Trek and Chill, Trek Family, some of the new groups coming along. A Transporter, our friend Chris may be in the chat today. Transporter Room, Ed's group. There are all kinds of nascent and growing online groups because, hey, it's a lot cheaper than flying to cons. You may be in a Star Trek desert where there's no other fandom around you. You may be in an urban area where you've got a good group. You may have an away team. You may have a Starfleet chapter or some other chapter. You may have 10, 15, 20, 30 good fans in your area that you hang out with and do events, charity work, and go to cons and have a booth, and good on you. But there's still a lot of people who don't mingle online, really, and they don't go to cons, or they can't go to cons for one reason or another, logistics, finances, whatever it is. But they're still, God bless them, Kayla's smile on them. They're still Trek fans, which is where Trek fandom started. We had the Discovery Effect of Myrna Culbreth and Sandra Marshak in Star Trek Lives. One of their chapters was called The Discovery Effect, talking about where Star Trek came from and its fandom and what is this newfangled thing, this paradigm. And they talked about Discovery, which was like when you found another fan, you were like, oh my God, I'm not alone. And it was a lot easier to be alone in the 60s and early 70s than it is now. You may already be online, just not for Star Trek, and you stumble into Star Trek Online, sure. You may stumble out of your, every other Thursday quilt league and find Star Trek. But there is a great unwashed fandom out there. Now, the trick is, I would love to know, a lot of other folks with online groups would love to know, a lot of folks at Paramount would love to know, how big is this great unwashed armchair fandom that we talk about? You get an idea with TV ratings, you get an idea with movie box office, but that's also hooked in with the quality of the offering, right? You get an idea with book sales and comic book sales and toy sales, but a lot of that is still predicated on the front end, right? If something goes viral, only it's retail sales or it's subscription numbers, that's an interesting, that's a preacher too. But what if it's just, we're so diverse and we have different niches that some niches are just more popular than others? I mean, I'm going into the weeds here, but I'm making my point. And the point is, I talk about the great unwashed armchair fans all the time. Again, sorry, 95% of you guys listening to me right now or later on YouTube, you're not it. I'm talking about the people, ironically, who may never hear these words I'm saying or any other Star Trek pundits, right? They just want to watch the shows. And maybe they buy a book. Maybe they buy an action figure. Maybe they even buy a comic. Oh my God. Maybe they get some nonfiction if they happen to be on Amazon and it pops up in their algorithm now. It used to be you had to wander your local, Barnes and Noble or whatever, your local Walden Books. What was the other one? The other mall bookstore. I've gone blank. It had to be you'd stumble in somehow, and algorithms help as much as they hinder. I'm saying all this today because I came across one of they're not mine because that's by definition. I came across one of what I call an armchair fan in the wild yesterday. And not because it was just this chance random meetup. It was a client, technically, you would say. So a few weeks ago, I had a fan from Germany who was visiting family in the States, was coming into LA for a couple of weeks. And somehow, I'm trying to remember how she found me. Maybe just a search online. So, yay. But wanted to see if there were tours or about touring. She knew Vasquez Rocks and finally getting out there. And she came across me, got in touch with me, and wanted to do things that she couldn't do on her own, or the obvious, which is fine. So Vasquez is the most obvious that a lot of people go up and do on their own. Of course, they may not know about the other 10 or 11, events and timings and insights beyond the Gorn fight, and that's cool. And if they don't even know to know that, then, but if they do, then they may get in touch with me anyway. So we had a lovely day, and we were at the Paramount lot, and not Vasquez, which she hiked to herself, but including the Hollywood sign and Griffith Observatory. But we were at the Paramount lot, and we were at Bronson Canyon, Cave Canyon. And lovely fan. She knew her shows. She had been a fan. So I'm going to embarrass Christiane here a little bit, maybe. I don't know. But she had a typical story. Yes, she grew up in Germany. But, Germany's one of the big foreign Star Trek markets since the 70s. We traded fan stories. Her parents got her to watching, I believe. But she and her 10 years younger sister, both huge fans. She has a son that's not the hugest fan. She has an ex-husband, his dad, who she's still on good terms with. And her son's a big fan. Not enough to go to conventions, but he liked watching the shows. Again, we have a family who just liked watching the show. She went to one convention. The destination in Birmingham the one that I was at of the Birmingham destination shows. She didn't like. She was thrown because it was the first time in all these years she'd been to a fan event, again in Germany, not like they didn't have them. And she was disappointed because she didn't think it was, for lack of a better term, glamorous enough. It was in a trade hall, the ones that I call that look like barns. They have an industrial, modern, postmodern look to them. And I feel like I'm herded, especially at the European cons, unless they're really smaller ones or very fanish like FedCon. But sometimes you feel like you're herded. Okay, everyone go over here, and then tromp, 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 tromp. A little old school with a modern twist. But she really took that to heart. She had no desire to go. She saw a lot of people. She loved getting some autographs. She just loved seeing people in the flesh. She didn't grow up online with fandom, didn't go to that for her place. She went to the one convention, had no desire to go to another one. She saw many people she wanted to see. She never finished Enterprise, and that was 2018 was before the whole wave of new shows, which she has watched and kept up with. So again, a viewer at home, not really online, not really convention going, but watching the shows. And her point of reference is constantly about characters. So on our tour yesterday, part of what, here we're filming sites, but you can't help but talk about what we talk about here. This kind of download of everything from here's what happened in this, what the TNG story, this DS9 saga, we talked a lot about Enterprise because there's a lot of sites on the lot that she had not seen the episodes for. And I said, okay, well, I don't want to spoil this, but Coalition of Planets, Madame Chang's kidnapping. There's a lot there. All the original series bits she loved. She ate up. And she, as we talked, she knew the term shipper, and she would talk about characters, and she was all about old school. It's like I was a time travel back to the 70s. That's what her big driving passion was. Not so much, not even, like ship porn, not even so much tech and on the science, although she appreciated that. But just even, just basic continuity. I mean, you can't watch Star Trek and not know that, the bridge is on top of the ship and the two nacelles are the warp engines. I mean, there's basics, But she didn't really care about, and as we started the day, I would go down a path and she'd say, oh, well, I haven't really paid much attention to that. And by the time we were done, at that point, and then, it doubled down even over at Bronson Canyon, because you're talking about 12 different shows. And and you get into why are decisions made about location shooting when you're a show that's on stages like Star Trek's? What's the thing there? What's just all involved in the decision and the production? And by the end of the day, she said, oh my God, I am, she's like, my head is so full. Which was, it was a good thing, Miri. This was a good thing. And it's not like I was on a quest to turn her into a background fan, but sitting at home watching the shows, you have the characters, and you also have a feel for directing and writing, and you come across names. She knows Michael Piller, Jerry Taylor, Ron Moore. She knows Gene Coode, Dorothy Fontana, Gene Roddenberry. She knows Ira Bear. And she knows people, Alex Kurtzman. She knows the new names. So that. She knows that Jonathan directs as well as plays Riker. She was not uninformed at all, but she was most passionate about, oh golly, talking about the characters and their interactions, and not even from the standpoint of, the actor, just pure characters and how they did and didn't. And I did not, I could not believe, I hate it when they killed off, when Jadzia was killed off. And we were back to, like, for lack of a better word, we were back to the purity of Star Trek. And that was what was overwhelming to her, as many times as she'd watched shows from the original series onward. And growing up, and she's like, I remember we talked about Patterns of Force, because the Nazi building from Ecos is right there on the lot, which is always fun talking to a German, but I mean, they're over it. They're over it. I wish some of our Americans could get over what we've been through the last 10 years with as much distance as, but that reflects how the Germans reacted and were helped to react. It was funny. At one point, the Marshall Plan came up, and she said, "Oh, if no one else has said it, thank you for the Marshall Plan, because you got Germany back on its feet in a good way." And I'm like, okay, before my time, but at least I know what the Marshall Plan was. And I totally agree. So, but we didn't talk about politics much. We were doing Star Trek. And I hope I didn't corrupt her too much. I hope I didn't turn her into too much of a canonista. I don't think that's possible, because we were all about characters, and she loved the original series and grew up with that as a young child, but her heart was really TNG and DS9 days. I don't think she'd seen all of Voyager, and she was rewatching Enterprise and had gotten through second season and was just thinking, my criticism of Enterprise in the day, that it just seemed to get thin. And she had not seen the Xindi year, and she had not seen the fourth season. So I said, hang in there. Everything you thought the show ought to be, it becomes in the fourth season. And she, well, why did they cancel it then? And I'm like, oh, you are so ready to catch up with the rest of us now. But it was fun how, no matter where we were, built buildings or out in the wild, all these locations, and just the movie. As we walked around the lot, there were lots of it, and totally not had anything to do with Star Trek, but like they were, and not big time shoots. They were setting up an event over by the theater for a premiere for the John F. Kennedy biopic with actors playing them. That was being set up as an event over by the theater, but there were crews setting up, either rewiring, repiping, hanging, for music shoots or whatever going on. The Heart Building is currently occupied by the writing staff, if not the producing staff, for The Rookie, which was funky to see. But I had to walk by and see Janet's old room and office, and Lolita's old office. And, oh, by the way, yeah, Gene and Jerry and Michael Taylor and Ira Bear's, Michael Pillar's offices. And share that with her, and show her the two balconies at the Cooper Building, when the producing staff was smaller with one series and the balcony was Rick's office. And then when they had basically the whole building with two series going at once, and Rick got the bigger office with the balcony. But those kinds of things. And showing her how the casting office was near Janet's window, and that story that Janet tells about seeing the Native American women lining up to be auditioned when they were afraid that the captain of Voyager would have to be a man. And just making those things alive. And yes, Trek, but also just the Hollywood stage. And she said, you intellectually know that there's a lot and stages and all kinds of different crews and designers, but to actually, even if not watching it be done 100%, but just seeing the infrastructure standing there, I guess. I may have made a background fan out of her after all. I don't think she's giving up on her shipping trend, but at the end of the day, and then especially when we visited Bronson and saw so many angles and getting it, just understanding that the melding between here's how the industry works, yeah, the business side, but here's how the craft and the art of the industry works, and here's how it comes up on screen. And not to leave behind the writing, the characters, the acting, the directing choices, not to leave any of that behind. It's not a competition, but to now have that added layer. I know she came away with a newfound appreciation of all of that. Maybe I slingshot her into the future, not around the sun, just into the future a little bit to catch up with this online world, the convention world that she had not needed. She didn't need online fandom or convention fandom, live meetup fandom. She had a few friends. Mostly her Star Trek fellow fans were her family members. And she's hardly a hermit. She has a thriving artisan business with glass for remodelings and historical renovation. And she's even got German office and then one in Italy, Switzerland that she's building. So, she's not a recluse from the world at all. But as far as Star Trek, she had everything she needed to be. But I may have, I don't want to say I created a monster, but she knew herself well enough to know that would be great to see. And I just know that I think I could detect by the end of the day a little bit of a crack in that facade. But my whole point today is, once again, Christiane was very much one of those armchair fans. Again, I may have corrupted her just a little bit, but she has an Instagram page for her art, for her glass work. She wouldn't call it art. She would say she's crafting, and she's like a guild. But it's art, especially if it's becoming a lost art. And maybe that will happen now. Maybe I violated. Is there a prime directive for fandom purity versus being corrupted by all this other? I don't know. Maybe I violated the prime directive there, but I don't know. It'd be very, I can't say I think I've affected her fandom forever, because she got herself there, right? But our conversations kept going back through the day, not even thinking about actors, but to think of when we talk about characters, the character. And as we moved along through the day, I just kept thinking, yes, I'm seeking out armchair life and armchair fandom because here it sits. And I don't think she'll be quite the same, although I know that's where she's coming from. So when I talk about the vast stretches of armchair fandom out there, and I don't care that she was in Germany. Germany's had Star Trek since the 70s. So, it's not about that. It's not about the location. And they're not, online is global, and conventions are not rare in Germany or Europe at all, for that matter. A lot of the smaller nations have at least one convention, even if it's a generic sci-fi or Comic-Con. The geek war, the nerds won the culture war, and it's global. Anyway, it was really cute to me. It was really fun as the day wore on, and then I looked back at the day and tried to assess. She had a good time. I had a great time. Everything we wanted to do, we got done. She got what she paid for. And I had the realization that I had just started the day with one of those vast armchair fans out there. Now, I'm sorry, she interacted with me and what I do, so she's a little changed. But there they sit. And anyway, I just wanted to share that, because they are out there. You try hard. It's almost like you catch yourself Because you say, oh, well, you're in Germany. You've been to FedCon. No, I've not been to FedCon. Oh, have you gone to any other? No, I went once in Birmingham in the UK. And it was good to see the actors and hear from them and meet them face to face finally. But the whole situation wasn't my idea. I kept thinking, why is this not nicer? These people deserve to be treated nicer. The environment, the fans, and the actors. This should be grander, was her word. So it's not for lack of ability or wherewithal. It was choice. And I'm just saying, there's plenty of folks who love having Star Trek in their life who don't need all the other. And they get all they need and more. They get the nourishment. They get the spirituality. They get the sanity in daily life and the ability to recharge with sanity. They get their competence porn. They get their wonderful, shipping. And they get their imagination, noodled from just watching the shows. Same as my better half was in the beginning. And still finds refuge there. Anyway, what do you think? What do you think? Did I get you, even on a Wednesday, did I get you all going here? And I know some of you in the chat, when we dive into it, you may feel like you may be in the same boat. So, and maybe online world is your way to break out. And that's cool. That's great. People are online for different reasons. There's another thing. I say online fandom. I'm lumping a lot of stuff. Some people are carrying around, some people find companionship online. I don't mean that in a weird way. They may be in a Star Trek desert and they find camaraderie online. And then there's some people that, as much as it was ever true in live fandom, there are some people that they're trying to satisfy something in them, and they turn to whatever hobby or passion they do. And now one of those channels is to do it by online. And it's not always the most positive. Some people have got issues and they're taking it out on friends they met through other means. I mean, there's politics. I don't care if you're in the stamp collecting club, if you're in the quilt guild. I don't care what it is. Egos and personalities can take over. And sometimes people who wind up on the short end, they go, all I wanted to do was talk about the stamps. All I wanted to do was talk about our Hot Wheels cars we collect. All I wanted to do was talk about our big cars that we collect. All I wanted to do was talk about Star Trek. Sometimes it gets... So I've learned many years ago, don't bash on sci-fi fandom and Trek fandom when you run into those personality issues. That's human, that's global, that's whatever passion you wind up in, you're going to find it there. And hopefully not too much. And hopefully, cooperative heads and personalities prevail. It's part of why it's funny that Star Trek fandom and sci-fi fandom and geekdom shouldn't be relegated off to this weird niche, because it's just like everything else, including sports fandom. So, when we indulge our passions, it takes all kinds. Everybody wants something different. Their demand is different. They get tweaked differently. They come to it differently. So it's a great small d democracy that of passions and fandoms and geekdoms and hobbies that Star Trek and sci-fi and IP franchise fandoms are right there with anything else that humans want to get into. So yay for all that. Just some still like to do it very quietly and on their own. And it's just good to know that just because they're not showing up to a metric somewhere else, that they are there, right? And I bet all of you know someone like that. And I bet all of you, a lot of you may count yourselves in that boat. But if you're here online with me, I'm glad to have you. There's a little asterisk, at least, in your situation. All right. We're going to jump in the chat in a minute, but I have a part 2 today. Part 2. Because, gang, it's time for another unboxing. Yay. I'm catching up. See? Big time, big time. my mom's eternal scissors, and I literally am doing the unboxing here, although this will be easy. Oh, good tape. I say that. Get in frame. If we're going to do it, get in frame. Boom. And boom. All right. Yeah, maybe a giveaway here. You got the Penguin Random House. All right. Old school. No plastics. Oh, yay. You know what I'm talking about. It's this awesome Art of Lower Decks book. I know it's been out for a couple of weeks. I just wanted to share it with everybody. This is heavy. Watch this. This is heavy. I don't know that weighing a book is usually part of people's reviews or reactions or whatever, but I wanted to update this. I wanted to unbox it with you all. I mean, it's the Art of Lower Decks, and Lower Decks was animated. And I don't know. There may be a poll out there. Would anybody willing to think that maybe Lower Decks was the overall start to finish, not one season? Lower Decks was maybe the most popular Star Trek of the Secret Hideout era of the 5 series. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Discovery, Picard, Strange New, Academy. 6 of the 6 series. Yeah, Lower Deck. Well, Megan Trevino, who was one of the art staff, actually took it on to write this, but it's really a compilation. It's a huge, when you think of an art, it's kind of I say a mini coffee table book. It's not huge in page scope, but it's heavy. It's heavy. Oh, I don't know. I don't have the look, it's very heavy on art. It's gorgeous. But here's the thing. It's not just an art book. It's because of the scope, there's tons of illustrations here that aren't so big, but they're in here. But there is a lot of, there's tons of contribution in here. There's a lot of quoting and interviewing. Yes, Mike McMahon writes a foreword. Barry writes another foreword. But a lot of the art staff are woven all through this. They're woven all through this. If you want to see a chapter guide, see Megan's the overall name attached here. But you've got the Lower Deckers, so there's a focus on the main 4, right? Mariner, Boimler, Tendi, and Rutherford. Then you've got the bridge crew, so you've got Captain Freeman, everybody else, Jack Ransom, Ta'ana, Shax, Billups. And Kayshawn is included there. Okay, too. And then you've got the ship, the Cerritos itself. And then you've got a season-by-season breakdown by episode. So hopefully T'Lyn gets a focus in there when she pops up. It's amazing to think that T'Lyn was not part of this until later on. But they focus in on the 4 mains and the evolution. And part of the evolution isn't just a pictorial record. It's the hows and the whys. So there's so much artwork, and they had it available and everybody saved everything. But there's a lot of techier. See, here's quotes from Barry through here, Barry Kelly. The rooms, the interiors. I think most of us thought it was a really faithful extension, the same but different for the evoking the right era of, the TNG Voyager and just afterward era. Even if they had different uniforms, and even if they did have purple striped tricorders, and just the dynamics of and then, oh my gosh, the Gelrak Arena, the alien worlds, the aliens, the ones that you saw names for. I hadn't even looked up Moopsie yet. The things they adapted from the live action, the Karma, and character studies, ship studies. If you're a canonista and you're needing to do your cosplay, you're needing to do your ship designs, including the animated shows, I only hope Prodigy could get a book like this. What I'm trying to say here is, it's an art book. Of course, Badgie. Oh, yeah. Take that, Tuvix. Reverse Tuvix. Badgie ascending. Goodgie ascending. you and season 5. Oh, there's the poster in big time. There's the Boimler Fleet cover. Um, it is an art book, but at the same time, there is a lot of show development. And I hate to say this, but as things stand right now, the art book here may be the closest thing to a flat out making of companion type book that we get. I think we may get some of that IDW. This is co-published with IDW, by the way. I should have said that. Who's publishing on it? I'm just thinking that this is yeah. I'm just thinking that this is the closest we're going to get to an overall making of Lower Decks. And since it's animation, since it's so visual, animation takes the lead. But a lot of the evolution of the characters, the artwork, the actual visualization reflects the character evolution of the characters, of the show, of the ship, of the tone of the show. So yeah, again, this will weigh down any light coffee table you might have that's in danger of floating away. It's pretty much there. It's out. It's been out now. You know what? I always knew it was a Magato. I don't know what the big confusion factor was, but hey, comedy fodder is comedy fodder. Yeah. So it may be doing a disservice to call this just the art of Lower Decks. It's a great dive. I guess animation, if there's any series franchise that's visual and compels as much attention to the visual as the characters and writing, it's a Star Trek. That's a concept I wish they had thought about when they launched Discovery, but maybe now they get it. They get it. Whoever's running the show from here on out, whoever it is. But especially on the animateds, the marriage of the visual and the character conceptual is there's no distinction almost. And so, yes, if you haven't gotten the Art of Star Trek yet, I hardly suggest you do so. The list price is $49.99. It's already a little cheaper on Amazon. But if you really want to vote, look, to the end, Alex Kurtzman, no matter who's in charge of Mike McMahon going forward. And I've heard through the rumor mill grapevine that all the new owners and people potentially in charge of whatever shape and however big the pipeline is, everybody loves Lower Decks, just like you. Everybody loves Lower Decks, and so do you. And I could not believe the chutzpah at the time Lower Decks was canceled. It was ended with season 5. Yes, I know we call that canceling. About this has not been the last we've seen of Boimler and Mariner and the whole Lower Decks bunch. Brave statements to make corporately in the corporate PR. So, Lower Decks and their merry band, and creatives too. Hopefully, a lot of that team could be reunited at some point in the future. This is a good marker for knowing what happened, and as a great marker for if one or any of the elements of the original Lower Decks series come back in some form later on. And I'm not talking about live action on other shows. Again, it's good to have and memorialize that. And again, so much of the Kurtzman era, we're only just now peeling back the layer because it was under such scrutiny, under such a cone of silence while they were making it. And animation is its own tough nut to crack anyway. And those people are working crazy hours and they can talk about it later, but in the moment, unless they kept really good records and personal logs, a lot of that nuance and the moment to moment crazy is lost in the moment. So hopefully we recoup a lot of that. But we're only still just now starting to scratch the surface of the making of all those shows, including Lower Decks, which again, I'm going to wager might be the most overall popular and then enthusiastically received of all the recent modern Secret Hideout series. Great investment. If you have Trek fans over and you're worried about their reaction to some books about other current series, I think you have the least worry with your Lower Decks book. Just saying. Anyway, it's a great deal. In the future, we're going to have a couple of copies to give away, but that's coming down the line, maybe closer to summer convention time, maybe at a live event connected with the conventions, but I will try to have at least one giveaway here. All right, connected online down the line. Maybe for Portal's open house this fall. We'll see. Awesome book. If you just can't wait, go grab it right now. All right. That's going to do it for the live today. So if you're watching us later on YouTube, keep the conversation going. Please drop your comments down there. Meanwhile, here live, we're going to take a micro break, and I'll be right back, and we'll dive into the chat and see who survived until Wednesday. But until then, I got to say, it's been a great week. Again, I just got to do my first Treks. We've got some more. I've got another one coming up in 2 weeks. It's turning into Treks season, and you may be in SoCal for San Diego Comic-Con. You may be coming down here before or after Trek Vegas. If you are, give me a shout out. We'll set up a day. We'll do typically 4 stops, two large, 2 small, and a quick fast food lunch along the way. I'm your concierge, your driver, your cosplay wrangler, your photographer aide, as yesterday was. Your videographer, even if you got to make home movies, or even if you're trying to go live or record videos for your page or your channel, whatever you're doing, I'll be your guy if you do a Trekland Treks. But get in touch with me first. We can go on short notice unless there's just absolutely no way my calendar lets it happen. Otherwise, sure. Coming up this summer, let me know. TreklandTreks.com or go to LarryNemecek.com, the hub of everything Trekland, aside from anything on video. And of course, again, big shout out to all of our Patreon folk. Yes. So thank you, Chuck A. Thank you, James Kerwin. Thank you, Diana Hopkins, Halbert Gunn Janssen, Lawrence Todd, Chris Jiggins, Mitch Keith, Keith Rombach, J.R. Poole, Pranakasha Productions. Sorry, gang. Comedy Forecast, and Andrew Jasimski. Yes. And our live wires on the upper tier, big thanks to Toby Peregrino, Elizabeth Stretz, Josh Reeve, hey, Gary Williams, Robert McLean, Byron Bailey, David Gall, MJ Frug, you know you are, Chris Garris, Brandon Coles, hey, Dave Gregory, Jesse at Crusher Convo, Donna S. Runyon, and Casey Shafsky. Got a lot of reporters and podcasters in this group, which I'm very proud to have them in part of that. And of course, if you want to jump in, it's a very simple one, the simplest Patreons out there. It's $5 a month, $10 a month. Those are the 2 levels. Patreon.com/Trekland Live for a shout out and a sharing of earlier year Portal 47 behind the scenes interviews. And speaking of Patreon, I just want to make sure everybody realizes that you can be an official Trekophile spelled with an F, joining the Roddenberry Mission Log Patreon, which is all centered on Discord, because that is where, including next Monday, every other Monday at 4 p.m., we have our live Trek Files meetup. Trekophiles tonight. Trekophile spelled with an F. And the Roddenberry Discord Patreon is as little as $1 a month. And it's not just Trek Files. Then you have access to all the Roddenberry, the mission logs, message boards, and community, and all the other. This week, one of the other Roddenberry podcasts, which is a really heavily produced show called Will It Fly? Dr. O and Tamara Krinsky. Tamara, the co-host of Does It Fly on Roddenberry, is my guest because she was the face of First Contact. If you have not heard, Trek Files was out on schedule yesterday. If you haven't heard this yet, go over and grab it. Tamara, who is co-host on Does It Fly, one of her first gigs in LA as a young woman, as a very young woman, was she became glorified extra. She got pulled out of the crowd by Jonathan Frakes. She's the young girl you see during the whole First Contact. You're watching her face for a reaction. Typical, you look of the future, post-World War III, right? The Bozeman Resurrection City bar, the Crash and Burn bar. Here's the hope of the future. The Vulcans meet the humans and Zephyrin Cochrane, and they focus on her face. Well, that's Tamara, who's now hosting, among lots of other hostings around Hollywood, lots of other gigs and work she does, projects she has. She co-hosts Does It Fly? And we had her as a guest for the Trek Files this week, talking about filming and the moments of first contact and working with Jonathan Frakes and the late, great Jerry Fleck, assistant director. All of that up there. So grab the Trek Files. You can find it anywhere fine podcasts are caught. thetrekfiles.com is our page on Memory Alpha with the links right there and an audio player. And yeah, the documents of the week. This week, it's the call sheet from one of the days they were up at Angeles Crest shooting. It's great to listen to Tamara talk about that. And I said, well, it was her first pay. It helped her get her SAG card because she became a featured extra and had to sign a different day player contract. And that's how she's not called out on the call sheet, but she's in the credits. Yeah, it's great. A great listen. You want to go. It's been a bang up season for the Trek Files. So starting off with Tawny and then Stu Ziff for a couple episodes with a bonus episode in there. So we're only in our third week, but we've had 4 episodes out. So check that out. Love to have it. The Trek Files is in its 8th year. Yes. It's 8th year. Hey, everybody, all around the boards, all my socials, it's Larry Nemechek at Twitter and Blue Sky. It's Larry's Trekland on Facebook, on Instagram, still a lot of fun stuff there. And yeah, portal47.net. If you really want to deep dive your Star Trek background, kind of the way I teased Christiane in our Treks yesterday. If you really want to go where no savvy fan's gone before, Portal 47 is coming up on its 11th anniversary. Yeah, we were doing all this way before the pandemic, having guests, sharing my archives, and having our Portales community. I invite you to jump in and do that. Otherwise, we're coming up on summer, and those of you who do get out to a convention near or far, you're going to be enjoying that. Lots going on in the world beyond our little bubble of fandom that affects us. And yeah, we're still waiting to see the tone that this year takes in so many ways. But meanwhile, we're all here trekking out. All your online groups are together wherever you are. I'm glad you're here with me on Trekland Tuesdays Live, no matter what day it falls. So until next week, which will be back on a Tuesday, if I don't see you sooner than that, we have a big Will Rogers Route 66, one of my other worlds. I Have a Life, thank you, is this Friday. You'll be watching the headlines from Will's ranch, even after the fires. A lot of attention. The official National Centennial Route 66 caravan, 12 cars, and then whoever, for the whole length, all 8 states, and then whoever joins in for segments of that along the way. Our kickoff reception for them with even more antique cars. A great deal is Friday night, and then Saturday morning is they're leaving from Santa Monica going east. I forget the schedule. It's at least 2 weeks. Yeah, be watching your local news for that. There'll be news and features all about Route 66 all this year. And if you're around the world, the biggest chunk of Route 66 tourism is from folks coming in from Australia and Germany and the UK and France and all across Europe, all across Asia, Japan. I can't start doing it. The biggest chunk of that. I'm hoping that conditions this year don't flatten those numbers a little bit, because it is the centennial year, and a lot of people, a lot of those small towns, the googie diners and motels and historical moments, and just those fun, the hallmark of Route 66, a lot of the old ones and a few new ones along the way. The Blue Whale in Catoosa, shout out to Oklahoma. Oklahoma has more drivable original miles of Route 66 than any other state. You don't have to get on I-40 or I-44 because it doesn't exist anymore. You can drive almost all of the original pavement in sometimes in more than one version. Okay, end of the Route 66 banner. I'll survive that. We'll see you back here Tuesday. Follow us all along the way. Check out anything else in the Trekland, including Trekland Treks, that you might be interested in. And whatever you do this summer, I've got a sick recovering wife in here. Hit her hard for a couple of weeks. Nothing that's labelable because she's had all her shots. Why not? This is still a rational world based on science, and that hasn't changed. And yet you still can get ill. So please, everybody, don't overlook this because it's been 5 years since a pandemic. Yeah, please Take care of yourself as you travel this summer. Please do all the things. And whatever you do, please stay awoke, check the sources, and trek well, everybody. Mm. Woohoo! Woohoo! Okay. Thanks everybody for being here on a Wednesday, crazy and following along. Let's see how we're doing here. Yes, we got back to. I had to fight again today to do it because I was an exception to the fix, apparently. But it's good to be back with you in full horizontal mode. Although last week's show recorded as horizontal, so on YouTube it looks fine. If you think you missed any part of our conversation with the 4 authors of Star Trek Timelines, it's no, that wasn't that. Last week was the opening of the nacelle action figures Wave 1. That's right. If you think you missed a detail, it's recorded, it's archived, it's up on my page in full glorious Trek-a-vision, which is like a standard 16:9 frame. So anyway, so here we go. Good to see. Hey, Christoph, over that way. No, it's a temporal vortex. I'm sorry, Cairo. Yes. Here, Drew Das is on the calendar there, and Captain Cat. Look at all these guys from across the pond we have. Sorry to mess you up, Chuck. Hope I didn't temporarily disrupt your brain today there, the little thing. And thank you for being a Patreon, as always. Let's see. We got Chris on. Chris made the temporal leap over to Wednesdays. There we go. Oh, yep. Meanwhile, looking around the franchise IP pond, there you go. Hey, Cairo. The new Amazon execs, speaking of that, different from the ones who greenlit it 2 years ago. See, there you go. Administration change. People have a thing about, oh, their show is not our show. There you go. They thought that the show was only appealing to the old fandom and not growing the base. Hey, Joel. Oh, sorry about that. I hate it when we have to go get new gear that affects our daily life that we take for advantage of. We take it for granted. Right. Yeah. That's rippling through. There. Okay, everybody. Well, we got a good crowd here. We may just have 5 or 6 today, but we've got a good crowd. Gosh, Cairo, are you speaking of any other IP franchises high concept we might be aware of here? You take the time to convince one slate of it, they greenlight it, the next slate doesn't have those insights, and they cancel it. Exactly. Hey, Sean, there you go. Yep, we're all almost the same, almost on a different day. We're almost still the same person we would have been yesterday. Yep. Hey, my figure. Hey, Ed, good to see you too there. Let's see. Brandon's making it with us out in the hills and hollers. Speaking of folks who have to find their fandom where they can, and online has been kind of a godsend. Yeah. Well, Captain Calvin, if you have enough clout to get it written into your contract, maybe you can. But if you don't, if things are iffy and you don't have that much authority in your negotiation, then right. I'm sure they were paid for what they did because you have steps, you have contracts and steps. That's what I mentioned. I have a Trek culture video that's coming where I kind of, to talk about Star Trek pitches, we kind of backtrack and say, well, that word greenlit gets thrown around a lot. What does it mean? And what about the steps of being greenlit, even if you are greenlit? And that's what you're getting into here. Yeah. Cairo, for Star Trek, you say, I definitely just want something nowadays that makes a big marketing splash for the other well-advertised production as such. That will make people look into it and people over into our community. You mean like DS9 and Voyager went to streaming and suddenly a whole new world found DS9 and Voyager? Is that what you mean? Especially DS9? Yeah. I don't know, Chris. Should you beam into your alternate identity? Exactly how alternate are we talking there, Chris? Oh, Ed, you don't think you know 20 people that think the same way you do. Well, look at that. You're your own niche fandom. Well, I appreciate the way you think because I'm always shocked when people come along and think the way I think. Because I started off being not blindsided, but I had my first attitude adjustment when I went to my first con and realized, no, they don't all sit around and talk about Star Trek background. Who knew? And then Interstat was my window was, oh my God, these women all want to talk about Spock and Ponfar and Vulcans. These name after at least 20, 30, 40 women are all talking about that. But that was the audience that found itself to a mailed zine because they came from zine world. So that was the background. People had no organization. Like you buy the tech manual. Where do you go from there? How do you get organized in a world before Facebook and Twitter, much less a world before message boards, before FidoNet and all of that, a world before computers in an online period. No modems in 1974 unless you worked at some DARPA deep think tank. Yep. Engaging cloak. Sean, this is a concept. You wish IP was decoupled from networks. CBS is yet again bending the knee to the orange dictator. Yeah. Yes, we'll see how far that goes because there's still capitalism. People still vote with their dollars. We'll see what happens. They voted with their dollars and they're screaming and got Jimmy Kimmel back at ABC. And now ABC's kind of found a spine. And you say, Cairo, you want some stability for the pipelines that produce our optimistic sci-fi shows, whether it's Star Trek, Stargate, or otherwise. Yeah. Is Stargate optimistic? I'm kidding. Oh, now wait, you have your own live? You co-host a Wednesday show? Oh, cool, Sean. You didn't plug it here. I've never heard you talk about your show. You should mention it at least sometime. It got canceled so you could be here. You didn't cancel it to come in and be in my chat, though. It was canceled and it allowed you to be here. Don't cancel your show just because I had to move a day. This guy's, that guy's, these guys. Okay. The transporter room. There you go. Exactly, Joel. Let's see. This is what I mean. You had family members that helped you out by recording Voyager because we didn't get it in your area. Yeah, sometimes it has nothing to do with finances or logistics. Sometimes it's just geography. Right. And that's, the whole cross pond, the Doctor Who fans that sent tapes over this way before it came to the States in the Rebirth, the Eccleston year, and off after that. Aren't you impressed that I can name a little bit of Star Trek or Doctor Who-ness there? We had a friend in Germany who did compressed DVDs and sent us the whole first season of Doctor Who that we had before anybody in the States had it. And if I was more tuned into fandom, Doctor Who fandom, and if I was more tuned into, we had more online contact, which we didn't in 02, 03, 04, whatever it was. Yes. But all the people who recorded tapes and sent them to England, UK, France, Germany, back in the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of cross-pond fandom happening to get around the fact of stupid national broadcasters. Yeah, and borders. And the remember the index code, the zone codes, what were they called? Region codes on VHS tapes. Yep. Oh, and also earliest DVDs, right? Yeah. Sean, your brother was older, so he bought the tapes so we could all have them recorded, often out of order and mixes of different shows. Yep, yep. Didn't have pristine, nice library copies, but you got it. You got it. You could see, right? And this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. Didn't see DS9 until it was on Netflix. Exactly. You were part of the revolution, Chris. Excuse me, the transporter room. You were part of it. Oh, we're still grousing about Stargate. Yeah. Yep, yep, yep. Oh, what are you saying here, Sean? Sky had the later seasons and the RTE BBC had the earlier ones, so new to me. TNG, DS9, Voyager could all air in the same week for a while. Sky bought them fresh from the free to air, showed 2-year-old episodes. Yeah. What's money? Yeah, 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 yeah. The only reason the Transporter Room podcast and community, the only reason that you could watch Voyager and Enterprise was the fact that you were able to get a waiver for Dish Network to let you watch the New York and LA UPN affiliates. There you go. You went to your first Sun. I think you mean con, right, Joel? You went to your first con in 1988 because you had read about them in those Best of Trek paperbacks. Yes. Well, I knew about conventions reading Star Trek Is and reading, the articles that Joan. Well, you would hear about them. We had commercials for a day to. When OAF was the Oklahoma Alliance of Fandom, but it was dealers. It wasn't fans. I loved how the dealers, the 70s, 80s era, it still exists. There's a page. And it was OAF and OAF. But Oklahoma Alliance of Fandom vendors is what it should have been. But they did little 1 and 2 day con, not Star Trek, not actors. And at that time, you would have had one cast. But that was my first con, was a day con that my mom drove me to. I was in high school, but my mom drove me to it. Spanky McFarlane, right? What's his name? That was Spanky of our gang. He was one of the guests, and the other guest was a comic book artist. So they had like retro nostalgia in a mix of the dealers representing old time radio and westerns and serials and movies and comics, a little retro TV fandom, like Batman-y kind of stuff, but a lot of westerns and a lot of old time radio back then. And that was the vendor fandom mix. That was my first day con. And then my first overnight con was OCon, a proper sci-fi con with a film room. And although the first time I saw the bloopers was at that OAF con, WinterCon was the name. Still have my sticker badge from the day. Money. What is money? It's a song from ABBA, or it's a song from the soundtrack of Cabaret. Just if you knew. There you go. You have see, most of us we cobble together a group somehow, right? Why do I feel like today I was half of an old episode of Life Support Live? Yeah, Cairo. How hard it is to reach larger amounts of fandom, as we'd love to reach more people with our online merch shop. Yeah, that's your niche on thing. And here's the thing, the Armchair fans are the hardest to get to because they're not tuned into these channels, and they're not tuned into even the conventions, because that's where you can get a huge jump start. You may get a huge download of awareness at a con, but you've got to get to the con first. People on their own initiative, like my friend yesterday, like our tour taker yesterday, she just Googled Star Trek sites in Los Angeles Star Trek locations, and hopefully you did your Google words right, and I popped up and she found me and was like, oh, well, this would save some time. And then she had the wherewithal to think, well, I can go to Vasquez on my own. How am I ever going to get to Paramount? She didn't know that you could buy a Paramount tour also, rather than just visit with someone. Yeah. Oh, yes. Well, where have you been, Joel? What are you saying here? Creation keeps trying to take more of my money. It's not helping with peer pressure. There you go. Let's see here. Oh, you guys, what's NAM? I'm missing the NAM acronym. Oh well. Oh, Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome to Tuesdays on Wednesday. Oh my goodness. Yes. Look who's behind. Turn the page. What are you saying here, your parents were going to take you to a Star Trek convention once in 1988, but they heard it was $25 a ticket and they made us leave. They had no idea. They have to pay those actors somehow. Right. Yep. Well, here you go, Duralt. Yeah, you're a fan fiction guy, so you're not an armchair Star Trek fan. Well, see, if you do anything, you're not just an armchair fan, right? If you do anything besides watch and absorb and enjoy the shows, the fact that you feel pushed to write, yeah, you may have a small audience for I mean, you want it to be a big audience, but the immediate people as you create them, you may have people you do feedback with. Maybe you have a writer's circle. I mean, that's an outreach there. I mean, some just sit alone in their cubby hole, like impersonating a film editor or something. Oh, Sean, you've always thought that the value of good sci-fi is its rewatchability. Very few shows are rewatched years or decades later. That's true. You've got to be, unless you're like Wizard of Oz or Casablanca. Yeah. It's a long investment, but it does make money. Plus, true. As far as for the corporate IP holder. Plus, Paramount's starting to lean into the Disney model of cruises and cons and maybe one day a theme park. We had a theme park. They'd finally get one back, right? Of course, on cruises, they're leaning on the licensee partner, ECP, who does an incredible job. It's only been the last 10 years they thought that there were smaller vendors, Trek Cruise, and what's the other one? There was Trek Cruise and then Sea Trek. Yeah, Trek Cruise and Sea Trek were a big ship, and they just booked a few rooms. So they were part of the people on. Never a full ship until the last 10, 12 years with the ECP license, since the 50th, right? This is what I keep saying. And a series, not a movie franchise series. Doctor Who is the only thing that even comes close. And then maybe Stargate. Who am I forgetting? And of course, Firefly had 15 episodes in a 2-hour movie, and they're coming back if they get their animated series. Yep. I know, Chris. We've had this conversation. Yep. Germany is probably the only place you loved where people would talk about Trek openly. You mean U.S. and UK people talk quietly about it? I don't know. Warp 3 is going to happen. Warp 2 wasn't going to be the end of it. Yep. Oh, I see. Yeah, Deralta, you're living that world that, say, like Free Enterprise depicts also. Yep. Passion's passion. You can go out and you should have looked. Time travel, go back and goes look at those guys and say, stop gatekeeping. You have your fandom, I have my fandom. Yep. I'm filling it. Yep. You fill your head with that nonsense. Yes. True. True, very good. But the attitude has changed. Now there has to be the follow through. What is this? Unfortunately, they're returning CAFD. You have to remind me what you're talking about. What we were talking about. What you're talking about there then. Oh, this Trekland Treks talk reminded me of an email I wanted to send. Larry, I've got email. Okay, I'll check that in a minute. Okay, Duralta, you are now more into history than 99% of Americans. Most Americans wouldn't even know who Henry Morgenthau was, much less what's going on here. But because I'm a Will Rogers fan, I have radio show recordings, Will's weekly show, and they were before and after FDR and the New Deal. They were getting out of the Depression. Everybody had a plan named after the person. And Will, for 1 year or so, a summer, he was always talking about this plan and the Young plan and the Owen plan and the Morgenthau plan. And he kept saying, I'm going to come up with the Rogers plan. And yes. This is very true, Sean. Yes. Very true. And it's the how did half or over half the country let it happen. Yep. Hey, Myth Dustards. Yes. Yeah, The Rookie's a great show, although it's a little long in the tooth because he was supposed to be the world's oldest rookie, but now the show is as much about all the other characters as it is him, Nathan's character, who is even older, so calling him the Rookie is kind of getting a little long in the tooth. But it was kind of because years ago, like 10 years ago, before pandemic, I walked in the Hart Building, and it was a children's show, and they were it was storage. It was like they had costumes and props stored in there. It was really kind of odd. So it felt more like old school. Yep. I should have taken some more pictures, but I didn't. Okay, we've made some history buffs here. Yay. Well, we tend to say ethnic cleansing. Yeah. But that happened in Australia, in Canada. It was a prime directive clash. And it's happened, across Asia, across Europe. It's one of those, strongest of the what am I trying to say? The evolutionary, what's that term we use? Survival of the fittest. Thank you. Which is still not fair. And if we're supposed to be an enlightened, brain carrying civilization, we shouldn't lean on survival of the fittest unless it's purely a biological level. You're talking about plants or something. Oh, good. Speaking of people who are out there leaning on online fandom to get their fix, hi, Narda. Oh, no, this is Sherry. Sherry. You have a similar icon. And yes, Plushy McCoy, Plushy Leonard's right back there. Mm-hmm. Captain Calvin, you liked him in A Castle. Did you like him in Firefly? That's what made Nathan famous. Sherry, I hope you're doing well there. With your yeah, we all violate the prime directive every now and then. Yes. It's okay. Thanks. I know now where we were in the main flow. You just potentially violated the temporal prime directive. Yeah, slow down. Stay in one time. Oh, no, Sherry. I'm sorry. Yep. Philip's here. Good deal. Apparently I've interrupted everybody's day here on a Wednesday. It's the place to be. It's the place to be this fall on ABC. Oh, I remember those jingles for the fall preview shows. Getting together for a few good laughs this fall on ABC. A little too low. That's not the right key. Soft 70s pop rock jingles. Yep. Must See Tuesday. Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, and Mork and Mindy. It was so old they didn't even have a marketing word for the Friday night line. The Brady Bunch, Partridge Family, Odd Couple, Random Show, and then Love American Style on Friday nights. And CBS didn't have a marketing night for. I don't think they had a marketing title for Saturday night with All in the Family and eventually MASH and Mary Tyler Moore, Bob Newhart, Carol Burnett. Well, this is quite picturesque, Sherry. Thank you for that visual image. And I'm sorry for pain. I don't. Yes. Yes. Okay. How's everybody doing? Thank you, Christoph, for the needle there. Okay. Unboxing and not vertical. Yay. Yeah. Yes, exactly. But like I said, the recording is all just fine in horizontal. Here we go. I know I was a little slow to get on the list, and they were good to jump me up. It is gorgeous. We should have. Hey, Jesse. We should have. Jesse, is this a? If depending on what Jesse this is this the first time for us with Tuesdays Live on Wednesday even? Choo choo! You can dance if you want to. Yeah. Oh, it's great for the art. My point was being there's a lot of textual evolution in it besides just although the art itself is a great how to go. Yes. Looks like a great book for sure. Yes, it is, Cairo. It is. LDS has made its way into your top 3 favorite Star Trek series. The Mormons? Oh, no. Right. Top 3 anyway. Poor Talin has no focus. Well, I know plenty of people who have focused on her in interesting ways, actually. 2-page spreads of LCARs. Yeah, but with the hump in the middle, right? The page binding. And I totally agree. I know Aaron is interested in trying to wrangle one if the powers that be can be persuaded that a canceled 2-season show. Love that they virtually made the sets in 3D and constrained themselves with camera angles and lighting to get the TNG visual look just right. Amazing. It is amazing. Yeah, they use instead of just making a flat, building the angle into the flat 2D, it's a 2D model that comes across actually. So yeah, the light just follows along naturally in the 3D model. Yes. Where is Dave Gregory? Oh, hi, Dave. Let's see. Cone of Silence. Yeah, it just came to mind. Are you using your shoe phone, Agent 86? 99? Oh no, where is Def? Hey, travel well, everybody at Trek Long Island. I overlooked Wonderfest last weekend when I was naming cons that are coming. There we go. And the chat. Thank you for marking. Well, you're welcome. You're welcome, Myth. Neil Decay, Zishevsky. Okay. Oh, come on, the transporter room. You'll be fine. TTR, you'll knock it out of the park. You'll be fine. And Pedro. Pedro comes waltzing in here at the last minute. Yay. Yes, we had warnings up yesterday that it was going to be delayed a day. I had business. I had to work yesterday. I was in the field, literally. At this time, I was literally in a bushy field, not that far from the Bat Cave. And Bajor, and a Bajor moon. Mm-hmm. Well, that's all I can do. What are you saying? It was your birthday last week. Happy birthday. Week later, belated. Didn't have a great birthday because of my mental health issues. Oh, Pedro. Well, you're here with us today. It's like so many other things people are facing. It's one day at a time. Yeah, yeah. Does it fly? Commercial needle. Yeah, that turned into a little bit of a commercial, but hey, it's a good show, and I wanted to give them a boost. Sure thing. What else is going on? There you go, Sherry. I got Will Rogers mentioned. Oh my gosh, a Will Rogers quote for this crazy week. Oh, there's some simple Will Rogers lines that over the years were so obvious. And these days, nothing is obvious. One of the simplest Will Rogers lines of all is Will said, "You know, it's great to be great, but it's greater to be human. No man is great if he thinks he is." Yeah, yeah. There you go. Oh, for the 60th, we get a Star Trek coloring book. What are you talking about, Pedro? They devoted 80 pages to covering the entire 60 years. Not enough pages. That's like one page. I'm not familiar with what you're talking about unless there is a color. There's been a whole revolution in adult coloring, just so you know. So I think is that what you're talking about? I need to see. Oh, thank you. I'm getting these maybe in reverse order. They released 2 coloring books for both TOS and TNG in comparison. Well, again, like I'm saying, there's been a whole, back to simplicity, back to childish simplicity for your state of health, mental health, and I've seen adult coloring books as a thing. There you go. She's very much on the mend. It's been a week and a half now. Yeah. She wants to see all those classic cars at the Route 66 event, our Will Rogers thing. Are you remembering correctly? Someone said, "I don't want to be a third in the cell," but many ships did, in fact, use a third or even fourth. Also, what episode was that? You mean like a Lower Decks? That sounds like a Lower Decks quote. We have to find that. Memory Alpha has a lot of quotes listed, so maybe you can find that. Oh, Pedro, you're talking about you talked to Kevin Eastman with the Turtles and how they've been used in all different kinds of tones. Yeah. Well, it could be worse. He could have been Saturday morning cartoon era and had the Turtles kids or something ridiculous, right? Twitch had the vertical format too. Well, there you go. I'm so glad I could add to your menu of experiences from your life. Yeah. Happy that he at least stands up for the 80s cartoon series. There you go. Yeah. Funny about that ownership relationship, right, with the creator. We're in Star Trek here, remember? Yeah. Stargate definitely couldn't. We got a /S here, Sean. What with its 17 seasons and 400 episodes? Yeah. because those people have all died. Obviously, only half of those people are still alive, and they don't buy stuff. Well, that's the commercial market. What would this have been? Linear commercials or streaming? People of all ages stream. I wonder what the age demographics of streaming is, because the 80-year-olds know how to stream now. Thank you, pandemic. It's like the 80-year-olds now know how to Zoom. Yep. Pedro, you're talking about why you were a fan chasing this. You don't have to explain fandom to anybody. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, see, Duralta, what I meant was, what was greenlit? Are you developing a pilot that was greenlit, but it may yet not make? Were you developing a pilot production with a script already in hand? Did your pilot get made and it was approved to be 5 episodes, 10 episodes, 15? See, I mean, it's staged. Look at Star Trek. Gene got greenlit. He got funded. Is what greenlit means. He got funded to write 3 scripts in the beginning, and he came up with, and they chose The Cage, right? And then he got greenlit to make The Cage, but then was canceled. Except for they said, go back and do another tone in your pilot scripts. He was greenlit to write a pilot script number 2, which was rare. And then he wrote Where No Man's Gone Before. And then he got, okay, we're going to give you an order for 13. And then halfway through, they got the order for the back 13. See what I'm saying? So green lighting comes in stages. You might have been greenlit to do your pilot, but then the pilot didn't sell. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes, though, if you have clout and people are high as a kite on your idea, you may walk in, they may love it. You may be, I don't know, Tom Cruise. You may be Tom Hanks, and walk in and go, okay, guys, I want to do a TV series. It's going to be this. And they go, oh, my God, we have a star. These are awesome scripts. The concept's amazing. You want who to produce and direct? Oh, my God, fine. Done. You don't have to do a pilot. Just do a 13-episode season or 10. Bang. If you're lucky enough, or you have the name and clout to do it, you might get the whole, which is how TNG did. But then TNG, remember, they went to all the networks and they were going to nickel and dime them on all of this, and they said, nope, we'll do it ourselves. We will just think of at least a season, the actor contracts, at least 1 season, but we're also going to sign a 5-season contract, and that's why the last 2 seasons they got bump ups finally. You're not a fan, Pedro, of the later Voyager years, as well as later Doctor episodes. But author got Barry Gordon, aka Donatello, in there right near the end. Oh, you're crossing your streams there. Okay. Was it the alien who asked about Toby the Targ? He was the Bolian. That's right. He was the Bolian that sued the Doctor. Yes. And at the time, I had no clue. Well, he's guest star number 47,000. But there you go. You heard that more women than men are. Well, historically, yeah. And I'm talking about the 60s and the first wave of fan fiction that led to zines, that led to organized circles, that led to clubs and cons, that led to the New York Convention. Randy, you're just going to have to back scroll. Although the topic happened. Stargate has some optimism and some downright pets. This is what I was thinking. It was really all over the map and had its really dark moments too. Okay. See, tonight is Ask Dr. Trek for the Americas for Portal 47. So I'll be back on tonight. Wednesday night. Wednesday night is Portal night. 3 weeks of the month. This is true, Sean. The tapes were insanely priced, the commercial tapes. But that was the level of the technology time, right? Now you can well, I had Columbia House, the 2 on a tape, and the only one I kept was the Cage because it was the black and white color back and forth version. Right. $75 for 2 episodes on the official. Remember, the Wrath of Khan was the breakthrough moment where, was it Wrath of Khan? Wrath of Khan or The Voyage Home, Wales. But it was the one because home VHS tapes of movies were like $80. You really had to like that movie to want it, but the technology was new. And it's like, TVs, radio sets used to be big and then shrunk. And TVs were big and shrunk. So it was just the technology curve. But yeah. But the Wrath of Khan was the first movie tape that was priced at $19.99, not $79.99. And it sold a ton. And it revolutionized because you could do that. And the tech was, shrinking over its time curve. The Letterdex guys killed it on the Transporter Room live stream the other day. There you go. Okay, Pet Rock. Who of the Letterdeckers is this your stage name? Come on, admit it. No, I'm kidding. But hi, Pet Rock, and yes, they do. Get the Letterdeckers, the backstage stand-ins and extras. That's some of the bread and butter that I've talked to folks like that I tried to. A lot. We've lost so many of the original series ones. Billy Blackburn, sadly, but among others. But that's part of the mix of what Portal was about. I'm glad that 11 years in, the world has caught on that there's far more to Star Trek than just the actors, the pretty people, the people that really do the show or have as many stories and insights as the actors. Yeah. You people and you're just star-crossed for stars. That's all. Where you grew up in Ireland, Sean, we could get the English channels. So sometimes we caught them on Irish TV, sometimes in the UK. If there was darts or snooker, they would skip an episode. Yeah. And they didn't bump it, right? They would just skip and you had to stick. Did anybody go, oh, hey, yes, Rand, you know what? I hadn't heard about this. Did anyone go to the Galaxy Con in Oklahoma City? I haven't heard a repeat. Thank you. I'm going to find out about this. You were not able to attend, but your wife took your daughter and there was a big crowd. Yeah. See, they do the old creation thing of jumping they find out when the local fan con, charity, all that, and they jump it a month. And they use all of their high power advertising to say, hey, look, it's the convention of Oklahoma City is here. And that used to piss us off so bad because we didn't have the money to compete with TV advertising. So the way we got back is we just made sure that we were there with flyers and cards and promoting, even if we had to do it guerrilla. Now, GalaxyCon lets SoonerCon come in. I think they might even have a table. So it's all good, and SoonerCon can promote there locally. But that's a tactic that I know city after city, market after market. The big chain con with the ad budget comes in, and a lot of times they will research and see what the local con, the homegrown charity fan run con is, nonprofit, and they'll jump it a month and suck up a lot of that money. Not just the ticket money, but people spend their money on those autographs and ancillary. So I heard it's not quite so contentious, but they still do it. They still do it. Now, we would advertise our local fan run cons and talk about, well, we're not a national chain con. That, the money comes here, stays here. It's all volunteers. And we would always emphasize local, 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 local. And that's what SoonerCon did with that. But I have not heard. I want to hear. Larry Pedro, you want to ask, how did they find the extra space in later seasons of Voyager for Astrometrics and the Borg alcove? Did production get more space or did they replace other rooms for it? No, Astrometrics, I have to think. No, there was room on stage 9. Well, now you're making me think. I want to go back and look in the blueprints. I'll try to remember this. Are you on any of my socials? Poke me and I'll go research this. But the Borg alcove was just set up in the cargo bay. In the show, it was set in the cargo bay. So it was set up in the cargo bay / shuttle bay / holodeck big set, same as TNG's had been. And they would just change they would, if it was a holodeck, they would bring the walls out. And Voyager's had those wacky, look like portable mobile shelves like vendors take to trade shows. Those aluminum tube gridded X's. But that's where the Borg alcove was. It was set up in the cargo bay. Astrometrics, I need to see and compare where that is. I think it was over on station. I don't think it was a standalone that they put on 8 in a corner, apart from the bridge or the quarters. I will look that up and see. Nothing else, I'll get a call sheet and see what stage it says it's on. That'll be the first clue. Yes. Yeah, Sherry, Spanky was the first lead actor guest at a convention that I ever attended. How about them apples? Yep. Did your wife get an Oklahoma hello? Oh, the farmer and the cowman should be friends. Yep. Oh, Randy, you just gave yourself away. You need to watch the ending of Oklahoma the musical or the movie. Yeah. You get VHS tapes when you were a little kid. Thanks. Stumbled across 2 VHS cassette tapes from Transformers. Yep. That's what I mean. Collapsing, shrinking, evolving tech and tech prices. Yeah. Oh, yes. It was probably more than a quarter when they had 2 series, and then when they had a movie going, there would be a couple more. Yeah. I wonder, do I have my... If you go to... Well, you can't, I guess. Sorry, if you go to the Portal 47 Facebook page, I have... Is it all in here? Here we go. This is fresh from yesterday, so I've got it fresh on my mind. Here we go, everybody. So you're getting a little freebie here. This is more in-depth deep dive from Portal. But can you see that? Here's the Paramount lot. So here's TNG stage. Here's 8, 9, and 16. Are you seeing it backwards? No, you're not seeing it backwards. Yeah, you are seeing it back. No, you're not. The blue would have been the same for Voyager. That's TNG. Yellow is DS9. And then the art department over here. And then in 1994, this is from March 94, the 2 orange stages there were the Generations additional stages. Generations. And then when you think, so if you look, these are the old little bitty silent movie era stages, which are still used. But there's 1, 2, 3, 14 and 15 are the big ones. Then there's the old Desilu stages here. So that's maybe a third, at least a third, back in the heyday without hay. Yep. Money and money again. Yeah. Yes. Money and money. What is money? First con stories. There you go. Oh, I'm so sorry, Chris. Maybe it'll turn up. Maybe you'll find it. You bought your TNG Tech Manual there. That would have been in 92. It would have been hot off the press. Yeah. Well, Sean, this is exactly the kind of thing that Paramount might license. Creative artists and all might be doing. It's the kind of thing that Otoy and Roddenberry might be working on. So we're rapidly getting to the point where it's kind of like, why do we have this already? It's not like maybe we can build this. It's like, why is this not a thing already? So yes. Oh, NAM is a 7th rule acronym. It means non-appearance mention. meaning something is mentioned in an episode, but it wasn't on screen, like a character or a planet or a ship or whatever. Okay. I see Nam and I think of a stupid war the States was in. My first tour in Nam. There you go. Yeah, Ronnie Cox used to always want to make sure and sing because he could. Oh, well, there you go. Great minds thinking. I have looked at the promenade without goggles. Like, was it? So, like Medusan, is it going to damage your optic nerve if you look without goggles? But it's okay now. You tried to explain your fan interest in TMNT to Robert Meyer Burnett. He also hates Return of the Jedi. Well, who doesn't? No, I'm kidding. Yeah. Dr. Trekland. I don't think is that my new handle. Oh, though that's my handle on Twitch. I'd forgotten. Did I ever go to a concert of Ronnie Cox? Nope, never did. Wasn't Paramount's theme park King's Dominion? Well, actually, Myth, Paramount bought some park. Paramount had many parks. There was a Paramount Parks division. They had King's Dominion. Where is this? They had the one up in, and they eventually, and the experience was technically under Paramount Parks. So when they sold Paramount Park, most of Paramount Parks were sold off, and Cedar Fair bought most of the Paramount Parks. But Dominion is that the one in South Carolina, North Carolina? Then the one in near San Jose, All America? No, I forget what it was. But Cedar Fair bought most of the Paramount Parks when they sold them off. I remember King's Dominion had the Borgified roller coaster. I don't know. But they had characters walking around at the other parks besides the experience. They had people in costume. Yeah. They had more than one park, is my point. Oh, I see. Well, that would be some collaboration. That would require some partnerships, maybe. That would be interesting, especially if there was no infrastructure needed at Paramount. If it was all contained, you brought it with you. I don't know. And that would be like a third party, Yes. Christiane, my tour taker yesterday, I hate saying client, that sounds so dry. But my tour taker yesterday she was breathless when we looked in at the 17 door was open, and she was like, the 18 door was open. And I said, yes, the Defiant Bridge sat right here. And she was, oh. They were so crowded for sets on DS9 because they added the Defiant midway that I just said, for one thing, I remember specifically the Hourman Bashir, some of the sets were built on stilts above. Dr. Noah's lair was built on stilts upstairs. Big vote there for Warp 3. There you go. Just as long as they stop before Warp 10. Maybe they skip Warp 10 like the 13th floor in an elevator. Oh, okay. We took too long here. I was talking about Right Wing, so now I forgot what you said to kick this off. But apparently we're all in the same mindset, whatever it was. Yeah. We don't need no salamander babies. Dun, dun, dun. You quit one of the... Boy, we really got into the Turtles today, didn't we? My youngest son was a huge Turtles fan. We had the foam chair that was about this big. When he was little, he was 2 years old, he could sit in it. Yeah. Proud to be a dyed in the wool. Well, middle of the road has as the Overton window shifts. I used to be very middle of the road too, but apparently I'm a raving lunatic liberal. But I grew up thinking I was very middle of the road. I believed what they taught us in history and the way the government was supposed to run. Yes, but centralists can also be the people who are blind to change. I don't mean in a bad way. I mean, they don't realize how much their old tenets are not helpful anymore. Yeah. Soccer was a good way to explain a convention to the non-convention goers. Imagine you have lots of fans of Schalke and Dortmund running around and no one hates each other and the makers in the there you go. There you go. You've used it as your metaphor of reach. Okay, we're in a Jellicoe debate. I'm going to leave you guys to that. And you like to not like him in Dr. Horrible. There you go. This week you were looking at behind the scenes pictures of how they made the mountain scene with Shatner and Nimoy looking like they were climbing the from Star Trek V. Yeah. Yes, the falling was that's hard to do though. Okay. Oh, sorry. Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank God it's Friday. Yep. The backdoor pilot on Happy Days for Mork and Mindy. You better believe it. Friday nights on ABC, that Friday night. And then about the time that faded, Saturday night on CBS took over. Yeah. And I was a little older too. Yeah, one joke they said the captain should die on the bridge. Oh wait, not this kind of bridge. Yeah. Yes, I know. I just loved how they did that whole joke, and nobody knew that, or they had the thing about it when Lower Decks came out, and that was the official prefix, and everybody went back to LDS and LSD and that whole joke, but LDS is also Latter-day Saints. SF Debris is a podcast or a video YouTube. Well, there's all the people saying, fine, save money on a new series and just go remaster, fine, go 4K and HD the damn Voyager and DS9 series. That's what people say. Okay, everybody in and out, folks going. Do you think that's the way the world works? You might be right, Sean. Since that's what people want, that's what they'll never get. Won't they all make money eventually? They just feel very burned by how TNG went at the end. Mm-hmm. Of course, but things change. Again, don't sit in the ruts of 2020. By 2030, that will all have changed, or even 2015. I had business near the back. Yeah. Like like the award-winning farmer, you were outstanding in your field. Yeah. Well, a chunk of it happened there, Cairo. Yeah. Yes, even more than Vasquez Rocks. Well, look at you, Sean, rattle it all off. Yes. Any documents in the Roddenberry archives talking about getting to shoot at Yosemite and getting to do different tricks to get the mountain climbing scenes? I'll look. They have a lot of Star Trek V material. We have all the call sheets. We'll look and see what we can look and find. Oh, well, you expect this, Sherry. I'm just going to leave this here, Sean. There's a lot of things that aren't real funny these days, but I know where you're coming from. Yeah. Oh, okay. You're talking about size and scope. Well, I don't know. Baby steps, maybe they see how it sells and then they do more. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, Nova Charter, that's fine. No judgments. Glad to have you here anytime. It's not. Hey, it's not the normal day, so you know. And this is very true, Chris. Yep, yep, yep. At some point, just spend the money and do it. Yeah. And this is the kind of thing. That's one positive I would think maybe this break in owners and looking at old school, new school, and all of that. I would maybe they take a plunge. At least do DS9. Well, there is this, Sean. There is this Star Trek SG1. What shall we talk about on Portal tonight? I don't know, Chris. It's whatever you want to talk about. It's, yep. Yes, Wrath of Khan and but Top Gun was a generation later, right? Top Gun was 15 years later than Wrath of Khan. Oh, you had Duncan Glenn and JR on. There you go. Oklahoma has many mysteries. Why is Kansas City in Kansas? Why? Where else would Kansas City not be in Kansas? It spills over on the Missouri side, so there's a Kansas City, Missouri. That's the question. What goes on? It's the Panhandle. These are all good questions. Do box socials still happen? Kind of, and they're throwback, funny little things. Do you have to say you're not in Kansas anymore when entering Oklahoma? Some people do. Of course, that's also the Wizard of Oz fading. Yeah. Well, Myth, I'm just going to say you're welcome. And I think that started, well, Dorothy got interviewed. Gene Coon died. And then Dorothy and David were your big two from the original series writers to be interviewed. A few others, but they were there in the trenches. And apart from the original series, I'd like to think the companion got into some of that. I know Mark Altman did his annual interviews in Cinefantastique and then his own magazine that lasted a couple years. But as far as like being around, that was pre-internet. It's all been picked up and requoted and broken apart and hopefully credited on Memory Alpha. But I would like to think that the big boost to writer insight, process awareness came with the TNG companion. And some of that actually with Alan Asherman too, I should say. And then I tried to build on that. But I would like to think that back in the day when suits and bean counters and people who brought out what passed for behind the scenes, if you had a Star Wars, you needed more stuff to sell. So that was how you got, it wasn't just a matter of course. Like start with the actors, start with the general overall stuff. And then if people want to still keep buying shit, then come up with ideas and formats and things. And that's how we got a lot of this early Star Wars material. But I would like to think that it was Asherman's book and then also the companion for TNG, half a generation later, that made people go, oh, roads not taken, initial ideas, premises bought, and then someone else wrote the story, then wrote, all that kind of material. I'd like to think goes back to the companion and the impact the companion made on people, much less, frustration at not happening faster, more. And conventions weren't going to hire writers, much less designers. And anyway, I'd like to think that we had a hand in that. And then, then bonus features on DVDs. And now everybody and their dog has a YouTube show and needs guests and podcasts and all of that. And that's very cool, including the Trek Files, which was hardcore. Not just blathering about it, but here is a thing that's going to be our anchor point we can see in black and white or black and blue if it's a second day call sheet. So, yeah. So good. Yay for everything. Preserve the history. Get people the attention and get you, the fan, 9 more layers about this show you're going to get than talking to that actor about it for the 4th time, who's only going to remember their, I came in at the last minute and acted it, which is the first thing you see, but it's not the first thing that was, yeah. Okay. My old speech. Yes. The warp core of what? TNG? From cream and pink to standard blue. In what? You're either talking about TNG or Voyager, right? Yep, St. Louis was the gateway to the West. That's why the Pioneer Arch is there. The Gateway Arch. The Gateway Arch is there. There you go. Yes. Also this. And they had done so much of that. We were there at the Bird of Prey tank in the B tank yesterday. But look at you, Myth. You specifically still remember that to this day. Mm-hmm. You love how they're still called sound stages, as if these talkies are just a phase. Well, if they called them stages, then a stage is where a play happens, a live theater play, right? So that's kind of why they're still called sound stages. They didn't call them film stages to start with. So, but if they just called it a stage, they do that in shorthand, like when you're talking a lot. But to just basically, they don't say stage 9, and people say stage 9, stage 10. They don't say sound stage 9. You know. How far was the Cheers stages from the TV? Well, the Cheers stage, which later was the Frasier stage, which earlier was, I think that was Lucy's stage for the late. I Love Lucy was not shot at Desilu Gower Paramount. It was on Cahuenga, which today is the studio there has a red stages, red, maybe linked to the red camera. But not I Love Lucy, but the Lucy show, her post-Desi sitcom in the 60s, was shot over there. And that's why Lucy Park is there and all of that. Lucy started the first daycare for Hollywood crew employees so they could have their kids with them in their long day. Did you know that? Daycare and day school. I mean, preschoolers, right? Yes. So the Cheers stage is on the old Desilu side of the lot. So close to the Hart Building and Cooper Building where the writer producers were, but halfway across. And you're talking about, why don't I just show you? So here. So here's this was Star Trek Street, right? And a lot of the stages here. This was the Desilu. What am I doing here? This was approximately the Desilu wall here. Here's the B tank. So the Bird of Prey was like right there. So the old Desilu Paramount wall, and it was RKO, obviously, before it was Desilu. The wall was there that when they bought Desilu, they, good grief, I'm backwards. What am I doing here? Here we go. So the old studio wall was here. That's what came down when Paramount bought Desilu. And then the, so see here, stage 25? The Frasier stage was right here. And it was Cheers before that. And years before that, it was Lucy's stage because Lucy's dressing room was right there with its little patio. And the Lucy Park is right there south of that. There's a little kind of outdoor park. Lucy's Park stood in for the Brady Bunch's high school. That entrance there. A couple of times when they would show a kid at school and you cut in real close and it's a sitcom and you don't think about it. It's also a picture. There's a picture of Molly, and we just did this yesterday. There's a picture of Molly and Keiko they took for like a frame picture on a dresser, and they took so Roz, Chow, and Hana, they took them over, little Hana Hate. They went over and just sat in front of the tree on the green grass there because it was the closest green grass and took an outdoor picture. And that's the picture they used as the prop picture for set dressing. But it was there at Lucy Park outside the Brady Bunch High School. No, there were always empty stages. 14, 15 is the biggest, the deepest stage. It's the stage where they built the deflector dish scene with the, and they flew the Borg out, that the Borg were, everybody was in their spacesuits. Assimilate this. And right after that, they tore down the deflector dish set and built the stage for the 30th anniversary special that was on UPN. That was like, and they had all the casts at the time there together and gave them those little awards. Yeah, very, very vivid in my mind. Denise Crosby always talks about getting the food at Cheers, but never got the context of how far the cast is walking to eat from the Cheers set to tea. There you go. And they probably were walking along the top because 16 was at the top. Planet Hell was apart from those. Here I am. Why don't I just show you? They probably, if they were at 16, then they probably walked over and through the New York streets and down that way. I'm guessing. Or they might have come across the middle. Depends where they were coming from. There you go. That's just your everyday workaday life, which is, again, part of what Portal and now everybody is trying to do. I know, Sean. I know. Okay, King's Dominion in Virginia. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Oh, Rob is Rob. Okay. Okay, King's Dominion. Did it VR? Oh, right, VR rooms like in a mall, like in an outlet strip mall. Yeah. Panic rooms, adventure rooms. Yes, it would cost maybe 100,000. Well, they'd still want it in, but see, again, it's the kind of thing that would be perfect for Vegas, no matter where they did it, on the strip or slightly off. King's Dominion you went to was not far from DC. Okay, so probably Virginia. Yeah, Paramount Parks was a division. Absolutely. In fact, one of the articles that was in the lost issue of Communicator that was ready to be printed until it was yanked when Decipher imploded, I had somebody had pitched me a story about writing what it was like to be a costume character actor at not the Experience, at one of the others. So somebody's going to tell me what's this theme park. And Cedar Fair bought it too, and it's about to now it's going to be closed though. It's right there on the 101 north of San Jose, north of Santa Clara, actually, in San Jose. And I've gone blank on what it is, but I pass it when you go north. Yeah, they own several parks. If you look up Paramount Parks, they'll give you the list. And so they added the little Experience footprint, but that was tiny compared to the real parks. Exactly, Sean. Exactly. And there you go. Thank you, Chris. All the old Paramount Parks. Carowinds. That's the one I was trying to remember. That's the one in the Carolinas. Carowinds. Get it? Great America is the one. Great America is the one at San Jose, Santa Clara, off the 101. That's about to close. They've just announced it closing. But these all went different directions. I don't know what that Santa Clara one is. Let's see. I think you've got one column of cities and one column of names. People, who's forgotten that? The whole world knows that. Why would they forget that? People forget that Laverne and Shirley was a spinoff of. Yes, the post-production original kid from the original series hung around Paramount and wound up producing all of those heyday sitcoms. And then Gene had him come, Eddie Milkus. And then Gene had him come back to help kickstart the origin of TNG. and he was close to retirement, and he went and retired. And when he retired and walked away, that's when they brought Rick in off his studio gig and just made him a producer on the show. Yes. Dr. Gould, well, you're 24 hours late. Special day, so you might not have seen it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Paramount Storage. Well, I can think of nothing more distracting than that. I get it. Okay, everybody. Oh, hey, BR Clay T. You have photos from Yosemite a day after the shooting ended. You saw an interesting sight or two. Cool. You ever shared those anywhere? You mean like from 1989 or whatever? Mm. Well, Ma, we try to help. We try to help. Yeah, it wasn't just that the Blu-rays TNG didn't sell. They started off fine, and the longer it's like a old Parkworks subscription. The longer you went, the more people didn't finish their collection and bought it. Yeah, that's true too. Though those were all sold before streaming, really, or high point streaming, peak streaming. Yeah, there's the like midway, not the final, oomph. Best they could do, but even midway would be better than what we have now. The streaming network would break if DS9 was released. Yeah, I can't wait to see The Passenger or The Storyteller in 4K. Ooh. I think you're thinking of the Defiant Onward year. I think you're thinking of season 3 onward. With maybe the Jem'Hadar cliffhanger or finale. The Valiant. Oh yeah, Pedro, it's worth it. It's funny because it's the transcripts of their interviews, which are awesome, which I have too, and they're just left. It's an audio history, and what do you call that now? It's the same way. It's the same thing that oh my goodness, did with his book here. I found out that I skipped over Preston Neil Jones, his unpublished TNG motion picture article, mega article, he wound up using as a book and expanding it. You basically take your interview, you break everything into topics, and then you arrange it by topic or chronological. I did that to write the companion, but then I had to smooth it into narrative sentences and then, cut. I'm like, wow, I still tease Mark Altman about that. Gosh, if I'd known that, I could have had a thing this big about next gen. I could and save tons of time. Like I have the version that is the cleaned up transcripts cut up in order. I didn't know I could have just stopped there. I put mine into narrative sentences. No, it could have been just a glorified transcript organized by time or topic. Okay. Lots of you're one to talk here. The transporter room. Boom. Oh, I was gonna say because Next Gens was always blue from the beginning. Yeah, they did the tests. Somebody did a test and didn't like it. Right. They really need to do audio commentaries with writers and production people involved with Star Trek before more people pass away. Welcome to my world, Pedro. Welcome to my world. That's what Portal 47 is about, and that is what my 600 hours of audio cassette tapes before we had easy video, and they weren't threatening to go into somebody's office and talk at the end of the year. I've done a few of those with modern era people, just hits and miss, when people didn't feel under the gun or they felt unlimbered from their show being gone. Studio can't yell at them for talking too much. No spoilers. It's like, well, yes. Bird of Prey tank also used at the end of the Truman Show, where Jim Carrey walks up the steps on the clad wall after. Yes. If you ever saw a crappy, swampy movie called Congo, that was, I remember when they shot that and they had the B. Whenever they used the B tank for shooting, then all those cars can't park there. And then when it was a heyday, they're stuck and people are mad because they have, for 2 or 3 months, they're stuck parking off lot or in another lot or whatever, have to walk further. Yeah. Chris, this is such a cool idea. Yes, you should do this. Damn it, I wish I'd thought of this. Yes. Yes, Sean. See, at the time, the 50s, TV booms in the 50s, and the movies fight it. They do all they can. That's why you got Panavision and VistaVision, and movies went to color. What are all the things that a movie can do that TV can't? Well, TV was black and white. It was a tiny screen. And so movies did everything that TV couldn't. And they fought and fought and fought for 10, 15 years. And TV just got bigger, and that was the whole divide between, well, I'm a movie actor. I'm a movie director. I write for movies. He's just a TV, And by the 60s, it was turning into more. TV is bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The money involved with it, including commercials and advertising, is bigger. So that basically the movie, the theaters, the studios turned into, if you can't beat them, join them. So every studio bought up. That's why you see those, what happened to, you watch Beverly Hillbillies or Green Acres. This has been a Filmways presentation, darling. Those little studios that were, that like Gene wrote for, that all these writers wrote for in the 50s, 60s, they all got bought up by a movie studio. And Paramount was getting ready to do that. And they're like, well, Jesus Christ, right here next to us, physically, is the Desilu lot, the old RKO, which made movies until the scope of movies got big. So it was their answer to their solution when Universal, when Warner Brothers, when all the big studios were buying TV assets. What, 20th Century Fox bought, who was the studio behind, if you look at those old 60s rerun shows, and that's why when Paramount bought Desilu, it wasn't just Paramount. They had a TV division. Dum, 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 right? Dum, 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 dum. And the original series were, I have to think. Dum, 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 right? So it was just it was an easy solution, made sense. And you had the picture of Lucy cutting the ribbon with Bloodhorn, and she never went back to the lot after that day. She felt bad about, because she was going to show the world and Desi that she could do it herself just as good as Desi had, that it wasn't all his, and he was considerable smarts and business acumen. And Desi is the one that invented reruns, because he said, let's film this and keep it, because you never know. And everybody went, who watches a show a second time? I've seen that already. Why do I watch it again? That was the early TV sentiment. Anyway, it was just lucky that, and Star Trek was the show that Paramount hated because it lost money and it wasn't doing, and Mission Impossible at least got decent ratings and lasted a few more years under Paramount. Yeah. Yes, it was Lucy's reruns that were the real golden egg of buying Desilu. Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Gould, very sorry to hear about the loss of your friend. Somebody I went to a couple of years older than me when I went to college, just passed. I heard about from our old college theater and art and circle. And it kind of threw me after I got out of last night. But all good thoughts to you. Good sense. Don't let your stories die with you. Write them down so Prince Harry doesn't take them away. Do I think there was any dislike or disgruntled behavior by non-Star Trek creatives or actors over how much space Star Trek took up? No, are you kidding? It was making money for the lot. The more money Star Trek made, the more money there was in the pipeline for Paramount to do other things with it. So no. And the stages, the show was paying the studio, even though it was all owned by the same. They were paying they didn't get the stages for free. They got a friends and family rate, but they were paying nominal rates, and it was keeping people hired, grips and lighting people, and they had the gear on set on the stages, right? So a lot of the mechanical things, and PAs and the teamsters, the drivers, and the trucks, all that stuff was up and running and actively used. Yep, absolutely. Hey, Josh, well, glad you could come by at least a little bit, and thanks again for being a supporter. You remember the 30th anniversary special? Oh, I remember it. I was in the audience. I have a lot of fond memories of, and the green room stage was, I think 16 was used as a green room stage. It was right after Nana and Sid had Buster, and I remember them. One of them would sit in the audience, and the other would take Buster over to the green room on stage 16 and walk with him, and they would take turns doing that. And how awesome it was to have all Star Trek casts on stage together back then. And by then it was original TNG, DS9, and Voyager by just a couple years. Mm-hmm. And Sean, I totally get it. You could do it virtually and not even have to overlap. You could still rent out the stages for real world use and not even have to do it, but have this. You should have an outdoor one too, a virtual one where you can see all the Star Trek trailers lined up the way they used to be. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, Myth. That's like basic nuts and bolts, basic potatoes. When I do a live tour at the lot, and when we had the big tour at the lot, they have big signs up which are cool, but they're all modern, and it's mostly some of the label, the Desilu letters and names and number. Well, the Desilu buildings just followed on from RKO. It was just the stages, and then the office buildings were lettered, and then when Paramount took them in, studio wide, they named buildings. I saw that they had just named the administration building is now the Skydance building, the old Cecil B. DeMille 40s, 50s era little Paramount building. It used to be on Marathon Street before Marathon was closed off and made into the they were calling it Promenade. Now they're calling it the Paseo. It's the world ready for Move Along Home in 4K. There you go. 118 was the price per season of TNG HD, about $1,000 for it all. And then with inflation talking about the DVDs. Yeah, but see, instantly those were undercut. Like, Amazon discount places, those are the MSRPs. Yeah. You have no idea. And what about Meridian? Well, Meridian was the Jeffrey Combs premiere, right? Am I right on the right thing? I think it was actually Congo spelled with a K. It bombed. I just remember back in the day, it bombed. Yep. Every episode. Well, see, now we have the wherewithal to do that. Hey, when Enterprise came out, StarTrek.com was having like Mike Sussman come over and sit down and do a writer, and Gar and Judy do writing commentaries, and then the corporate, much closer together then, grabbed them and put them on the release DVDs because they'd already done it for StarTrek.com, maybe free. I should ask Mike about that. Did you do those commentaries? Did they go back and give you, here's $50 for doing that? Maybe. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, Really, Chris? Okay. Were you in from the beginning? Thank you, sir. That's too much. You're already a huge supporter. So everybody go support Chris. And Chris just had me on last Saturday for his Patreon special. We watched, I say the pilot, it sounds silly, but we watched the Vulcan Hello of Discovery, which I hadn't watched in 9 years to that much detail, especially all the way through. Star Trek props got used in other shows and movies. Yep. Well, were they built to be Star Trek, or did they talking about the Star Trek built stuff? Yes, absolutely. What We Leave Behind aired 27 years ago this week. Time is a bitch. We'll never get the first 5 crews together like that again, bar some black magic. Well, yeah, you get the first crew back together again. I want to know about it. Could you? Because I've got some things I got to talk to Dee about. I think so. I think Ted Danson was the host and Kenny G playing. Yeah, I think the special exists still. They gave them all those little NASA-like certificate things. Mm-hmm. Yes. Meridian or Prodigal. Prodigal Daughter's not so bad. They got him out in the sun. Yeah. Oh, the borderline cringy Irish. Now you can't. Irish aren't a race. Of course, there's no races. Well, there's races. Is it culturist? Is that what it is? Just in case most people don't know, Uncle Forey Ackerman, used to refer to Prince Sirki. Oh, death takes a holiday. When famous people from his age died. Death as Friedrich March. Yeah, Frederick March. Okay, gang. Wow, that was a thank you, Chris, for the super chat. Hey, I totally didn't mention super chats today, guys. If you want to do as Chris did, I appreciate that. My YouTube, 4 or 5 months, finally I accumulate enough to get a YouTube check. So I appreciate that. And it was a lot of fun coming on last Saturday. Check out half of my followers, I think, have podcasts and shows. So I know Jesse has hers. Now I'm going to get in trouble because I'm not going to remember everybody's. But go check them all out. And yes, this is, I don't know if you can get them all physically on stage together. And I don't mean like lifting them. I mean, will they go at each other's proximity? But that's where we're down to. Yeah. About the last one of those was probably after the 30th anniversary con in Huntsville. Probably Jimmy's Dee had passed, but probably the next time would have been Jimmy's retirement show when Jimmy was barely hanging on, but everybody came and took a few pictures. Shatner didn't do near the number of pictures he was supposed to, though. All right, gang. That's going to do it for us today. Thanks a lot. I just wanted to, it's a time of not big headlines. So that my insight from yesterday, I found one. I found an armchairer, was kind of cool. Otherwise, though, thanks a lot. Once again, a mention of not only the Trek Files. We're back in season 15. We've had some banger episodes. This one with Tamara Krinsky, who is co-host of Does It Fly on Roddenberry, reminding how her improbable story wasn't planned. She wound up being the face, not of Bozeman, Montana, but the face of First Contact. Accidentally, and got a screen credit and got her SAG card because of it. Listen, check it out on the Trek Files. thetrekfiles.com is a good place. Jump over to the Roddenberry Patreon, the Mission Log Patreon. $1 a month you can be in, get access to all the groups, all the shows, all the live meetups, including Trekophiles tonight, every other Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, starting, next time will be next Monday. I really love it if you could jump over there with us. My Patreon and all of our lovely, lovely Patreon folk, our live wires and our TTLers, thank you all so much once again. Again, that's easy to do, $5-10 at patreon.com/Trekland Live. Trekland Live. Thanks, everybody. And again, if you're thinking about heading this way, somewhere across SoCal, we will customize your away mission. It'll be a day to remember, just like Christiane's yesterday. We'll do what we can depending on your schedule, and then I will be there to drive, concierge, wrangle, photo, video, hold your cat, your dog, your cat, hold your dog, whatever you need. And of course, if it's the socials you're looking for, at Larry on Twitter and Blue Sky, Larry's Trekland on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Like and subscribe, do all the things. Please, please, please. And yes, portal47.net, if you're ready to take the deep dive, like a lot of our folks in chat here talking about, tonight is Ask Dr. Trek Roundtable, which is our main meeting night for the Prime Edition, the Americas. We have one for just the Europeans. I see you all. We've got Europeans on this call too. On the European, it's midday for the States if you can break away. A lot of Americans and Canadians. I haven't had any Canadians in a long time. They jump on when they can. Sometimes they jump on and just lurk, which is all good too. And then we have guest night every month that I've been doing behind the scenes guests since September of 2015. Just like this. Thank you, freeconferencecall.com. We hardly knew you back. Actually, the first few months we started, we had no hope of this. We were doing phone. The first time or two was phone call. And that was still groundbreakingly amazing. And then we got share screen. And within 6 months, we had video cameras. Early and clunky. And your guest might be a retiree who didn't have a webcam. And we still did audio phones with pictures. But that's where we started. So thank you, pandemic, for equalizing all that for everybody. Thank you, though, for being with us again. Check out everything Trekland. I sure appreciate it. Helps me to help you. And we'll see you back on Tuesday next week. If I don't see you, catch you somewhere beforehand. If you're not driving in the National Centennial Route 66 official caravan on Saturday morning, coming out to the reception barbecue on Friday night, then I'll probably not see you until Tuesday. But looking forward to a big con season. San Diego, I have a panel at San Diego. I might be on a second one. I haven't heard yet. And then we've got Trek Vegas. And then you folks still have Long Island coming up. All the other cons in and around that are on the way. The Philly con, interesting to see. I think that's already on track to be a better situation for people being able to go than the poor Reed Pop New York alternative 10 years ago. That was after, it was September after August for Trek Vegas, but so many people had invested in Trek Vegas. It came along so late. This one came along the same time, but I think a lot of people still weren't planning to come to Vegas. And the world is bigger. And we've had, say what you will, 10 years of Kurtzman Trek that's brought us even more fans. And there's more people to go around, maybe not to Vegas. So I think the Philly is going to be a bigger hit than the New York was. We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, till next Tuesday, gang. Thank you all so much. Hey, take care of yourself. Do all the things. Stay awoke. Check the sources. And yeah, truck well, everybody.